We're seeing mutations, cannibalistic hunger.
Typical human behavior is now entirely absent.
Imagine waking up one morning to find you're the last person alive. No voices, no traffic, no hope, just silence and shadows watching from the dark. That's I Am Legend, 2007. A movie that made us fear loneliness more than monsters. But behind that haunting story lies 20 weird, fascinating, and emotional facts that will change the way you see this film forever. Let's dive in. 1. The original ending was too dark for Hollywood. Before the version you know hit theaters, I Am Legend had a completely different and far darker ending. In that version, Neville realizes he's been the villain all along. The infected Darkseekers weren't mindless monsters. They were intelligent beings protecting their own kind. When he sees a butterfly pattern form on the glass, Neville finally understands. They just want one of their own back. He lets them go. And in that moment, realizes he was the legend, the monster who hunted their species. But test audiences hated it. Too tragic, too philosophical. So the studio changed it and turned a story about guilt into one about sacrifice. Even years later, fans continue debating which version is the real ending, the one Hollywood gave us, or the one that stayed true to the book's haunting message. 2. Will Smith tried to adopt his dog. Co-star Sam, the German shepherd that broke everyone's hearts, was played by a real dog named Abby. Will Smith grew so close to Abby that he begged her trainer to let him adopt her after filming. He said working with Abby made the isolation scenes bearable. She was the only actor he could talk to for months. When they shot the heartbreaking scene in the lab, Smith said it took everything he had not to cry for real. The trainer refused the adoption, saying Abby was part of the family. But Smith kept a framed photo of her in his house, a tribute to his most loyal co-star. In interviews years later, he still calls her one of his favorite co-workers of all time. 3. They shut down real New York streets. At $5 million a day, the filmmakers wanted authenticity, so they did the unthinkable. They shut down Manhattan, Fifth Avenue, Times Square, Washington Square Park. Entire blocks were sealed off. No cars, no people, no movement, for hours at a time. Residents watched from rooftops as Will Smith walked through a silent, empty New York. It cost a staggering $5 million a day, one of the most expensive location shoots in history. But that's why the apocalypse looked real, because it was shot in the real heart of the city that never sleeps. Even police officers described the eerie quiet as unnatural, as if the world really had ended. 4. The story that created the zombie genre. I Am Legend isn't just a movie. It's based on a 1954 novel by Richard Matheson. That book invented the modern zombie genre. It inspired Night of the Living Dead, The Walking Dead, and even World War Z. Matheson's original idea was brilliant. What if humanity wasn't the victim but the infection itself? In the novel, Neville is the last human. And to the infected, he's the monster who hunts them at night. A tragic role reversal that made horror history. It turned vampires into metaphors for humanity's fear of itself. A theme that still echoes in today's apocalyptic films. 5. The infected were originally real actors. Early versions of the Darkseekers weren't CGI. They were real people in prosthetics. The makeup team spent hours building pale, veiny looks, complete with contact lenses. But something felt off. The movements weren't unnatural enough. The director wanted them to feel wrong, like corrupted humans, not zombies. So they switched to CGI, exaggerating every motion, every scream, every vibration. That's why they look so disturbingly inhuman. They were designed to violate natural movement. And fun fact, motion capture artists still studied contortionists to keep that eerie realism intact. 6. Will Smith was trained by real military experts. To make his survival feel authentic, Smith trained with Navy SEALs and Army Special Forces. They taught him how to clear rooms, ration food, and booby-trap urban spaces. Every detail, from how Neville holds his rifle to how he checks a corner, was based on real tactics. Smith even learned how to dress animal carcasses and set perimeter alarms using wire and bottles. By the time shooting started, he wasn't just playing a survivor. He was one. He once said he felt like he could survive an apocalypse for at least a week after training. 7. The flashbacks were filmed months later. Those haunting flashbacks, the helicopter, his wife, his daughter, weren't part of the original shoot. The director added them months later to show Neville's humanity after the loneliness had settled in. By that time, Will Smith had been performing alone for weeks, and the exhaustion you see in his eyes isn't acting. It's real isolation, real emotional fatigue. The result? Some of the most human moments in a post-apocalyptic film ever made, and they gave the movie balance, pain, loss, and the reminder that Neville wasn't always alone. 8. The scene that broke Will Smith. When Sam gets infected, the entire set fell silent. Smith later admitted he couldn't stop crying between takes. He said, "That scene destroyed me. I didn't act. I just felt the director let the camera roll without cutting. What you see on screen is not performance. It's a man grieving the last friend he has in the world. Even crew members watching behind monitors admitted they were in tears, a rare moment when fiction became too real." 9. The mannequin trap scene was real paranoia. Remember when Neville screams at the mannequin, "What the hell are you doing out here?" That wasn't just acting. The crew moved the mannequin between takes without telling Will Smith, just to get a genuine reaction of confusion and fear. The result? A perfect breakdown of Neville's sanity, and one of the eeriest scenes ever filmed in daylight. Smith later said that was the day he truly understood the character's loneliness. He felt like a man losing his mind in front of a city that couldn't care less. 10. The virus was based on real science. The Crippen virus, the cure that wiped out humanity, was inspired by real gene therapy experiments. The idea was simple, but horrifyingly plausible. Rewrite human DNA to cure cancer, and accidentally unleash mutation. Real scientists helped design the opening scenes to look medically accurate. So when Emma Thompson explains her breakthrough, it's not random sci-fi jargon. It's actual scientific language that could one day go wrong. Even today, genetic researchers admit that scene still gives them chills because it feels a little too possible. 11. The sound of the infected came from real animal screams. To create the Darkseeker's cries, the sound team mixed the growls of lions, pigs, and humans, then reversed and distorted them. The result was something familiar, but impossible to place. That's why it makes you uneasy. Your brain recognizes it's partly human, but not quite. It's evolution gone wrong, captured in sound. And fun detail. The main shriek you hear in the final battle is partly Will Smith's own scream, digitally warped to match the infected's pitch. 12. The hidden butterfly message. Butterflies appear all through the film. Drawings, blood splatters, even reflections. It wasn't random. It symbolized rebirth and transformation. In the alternate ending, when a butterfly appears on the glass, Neville realizes the infected only want to save one of their own. The message, understanding, not violence, is what saves humanity. A detail most viewers miss, but it defines the soul of the film. Even the butterfly tattoo on the infected woman's neck foreshadowed the movie's true message from the very beginning. 13. The abandoned city wasn't CGI. Many assume the empty New York streets were computer-generated, but most were practical. Crews filled the streets with dead leaves, garbage, and overgrown plants, all manually placed. Thousands of plastic weeds and props transformed Manhattan into a lifeless jungle. Even the cars were positioned to look like people had fled in panic. Every frame was meticulously built, and it paid off. Cinematographers later said those scenes became a love letter to a dead city. 14. The Darkseeker's behavior came from rabies research. The animators studied footage of rabies-infected animals to design the Darkseeker's shaking, twitching, and breathing. Every motion had a biological explanation. Overheating, lack of control, hyper-aggression. The result? Monsters that feel disturbingly real because their behavior was taken directly from nature's worst diseases. Even their aversion to sunlight mirrors how rabies affects sensitivity and brain function, a chilling scientific touch that makes the movie feel plausible. 15. Emma Thompson's cameo started it all. The scientist on the TV in the opening scene, the one who cures cancer, that's Emma Thompson. Her 15-second cameo set off the entire apocalypse. It's one of the shortest but most crucial performances in the movie, the moment that began humanity's downfall. In a way, she's the hidden villain of the story, the spark that ended the world. 16. The original script had talking mutants. The first version of the screenplay actually included infected that could talk and reason. The idea was to stay closer to the book, where the infected form their own society. But test audiences found it too strange, and it ruined the isolation theme. The idea was scrapped, and all dialogue replaced with primal screams. Still, fragments of that early concept survived. You can spot hints of intelligence in the way the leader Darkseeker plans his traps. 17. Will Smith took a pay cut to make it real. Smith earned $25 million for I Am Legend, one of the highest salaries in Hollywood, but he voluntarily cut part of his paycheck to fund extra shooting days and New York shutdowns. He said authenticity mattered more than money, because if the world ends, I want it to feel real. His decision inspired part of the crew to do the same, sacrificing comfort to make the apocalypse look believable. 18. The Butterfly came from Will Smith's real life. The butterfly theme wasn't just symbolic, it came from Smith himself. He suggested it after seeing his daughter's butterfly necklace. It reminded him that beauty survives even in chaos. That tiny idea became the emotional heartbeat of the entire film. The butterfly became a personal connection, a reminder of his own daughter, mirroring Neville's loss and his desperate hope for meaning. It's one of the few Hollywood symbols born from a father's love. 19. The studio forced the heroic ending. Warner Brothers didn't like the philosophical original ending. They wanted a crowd-pleasing finale, with Neville dying a hero. The director resisted but eventually agreed. Years later, fans discovered the alternate ending, and most agreed it was more powerful, more meaningful, and truer to the book's message. It remains one of Hollywood's most debated endings: art versus audience. 20. The sequel follows the alternate ending. The upcoming I Am Legend 2 won't continue the theatrical version. It follows the alternate ending, meaning Neville survived. Will Smith returns, joined by Michael B. Jordan, in a world where humanity's not extinct, just changed. The legend isn't over. It's only evolving. Smith confirmed that the sequel explores a new kind of coexistence between humans and infected, a continuation of the original message that Hollywood once buried. I Am Legend isn't just about the end of the world. It's about what remains when the noise disappears, about guilt, hope, and the thin line between savior and monster. Every shot hides a story. Every silence hides a scream. And in that loneliness, maybe we see a little of ourselves. If you like this video, please do not forget to watch the next one.